for 317 day, the pieces I picked out, I wanted to be like specific to Indy itself, you know, a view of the world from Indianapolis, and it kind of touches on everything downtown and surrounding the Indy area. But yeah, man, I mean, the city's changed a lot even since I was born. I'm gonna be 27 this year, which doesn't seem like that old or that long, but like it's changed a lot. And I grew up in Broad Ripple, and Broad Ripple's changed a lot. So, you know, it's funny that who knows, in the next 20, 30, 50 years, we look back at some of these skyline tees and our skyline could look different, you know? That's kind of the cool thing about vintage pieces, is it's a captured moment in time that, you know, is essentially a snapshot of what things were. A little detail on that one I like too, it says Indianapolis is moving up. I don't know, it's just like really random. It's almost like where like the artist name, who I'm assuming that is, it's like where that should be. I guess that might have been the title of this piece too, but I don't know. That's you asking us about like why Naptown and why that in our name. I don't know, I feel like the goal is to move up as, you know, a city and a scene and identity. So it's kind of cool that it has that on there. Yeah, these next two tees, this one is a 90s children's museum tee. And there are children's museums all over the country, but Indy actually has the biggest children's museum. And it's always been changing with exhibits and whatnot. Throughout my childhood, it was a huge staple. Gene used to take me all the time as a kid. And, you know, it allowed you to be, again, creative, you know, within a museum experience and be very hands-on, which is how I learned best, you know, throughout my life. So to have an original shirt from them is pretty cool. Same with the Indianapolis Zoo. This is an old promo for the Dolphin dome that they put in, which was a staple for the zoo for sure. And dolphins are one of my favorite animals, just with how smart and entertaining they are. But getting to see them firsthand at the Indianapolis Zoo as a kid was cool. And I remember being at the zoo and like it being so open and running around when I could walk for the first time, all the way up to now we're taking like our nieces and nephews to have them have the same experience, you know? It's definitely full circle, and the Dolphin Dome's been there the whole time.
So this was such a coup for Indianapolis, right? Because Baltimore Colts were iconic, Johnny Unitas and those teams. But this put Indianapolis on the sports map, really, because football had so much more recognition than the NBA did. And so to convince an NFL franchise to come to the city was enormous, both from just a reputation standpoint, but also from an economic standpoint. And then the story was kind of cool because literally, to avoid the wrath of Baltimore citizens, they snuck out in the middle of the night and came to Indianapolis.
I just remember when I was a kid, my grandmother lived in Hawville, and we could hear the cars racing from her backyard.
But the great thing about the Indianapolis 500, and again, admittedly, I'm not a car guy, but you know, that's what Indianapolis is known
Right.
for, all over the world, right? And so you talk about racing, you talk about the 500, people know about Indianapolis. They probably couldn't tell you where Indianapolis is.
But they'll know where Speedway is.
But they've heard about it and they've seen it on TV, and so it's cool that we have the one kind of thing that we can hang our hat on as far as worldwide recognition, and it's the 500.
This might be one of the rarest tees, I'd say, in our collection, just by pure obscurity, and the fact that like it was a super big event that you never see any merch from. I mean, the only other thing from this that we have is a pin, and yeah. So the All-Star Game in '85 was the last time it was actually here in Indy. We were supposed to have it in 2020, but COVID hit, and it got rescheduled to I think 2024. So yeah, this one is really, really cool. It was Michael Jordan's first All-Star Game and Dr. J's last All-Star Game. So it's kind of like the passing of the torch of, you know, the Flight brothers, if you will. And yeah, this one's crazy. We found this one in a hoarder house as we were digging through it, and the guy like didn't want to come up off it after, you know, his house is being condemned, everything was being thrown away, but we had to convince him to get rid of this tee. And that kind of, if that doesn't tell you how special it is, then I don't know what does.
When you think of hockey in Indianapolis, the thing you think of the most, or is the most recognizable to me, is the fact that Wayne Gretzky was here as a high school student and played hockey here. So, you know, I don't know. I think we recognize the hockey experience here in Indy more through the uniforms and jerseys that have come through.
Right.
I've never had the pleasure of attending any hockey games here. But we're always surprised as vintage clothing owners. I always thought when we'd have hockey stuff, it would just sit in here forever. And we literally cannot
We have
keep
loyal
it in.
hockey fans.
Really loyal hockey fans here. And, obviously a strong hockey history.
Right.
I mean, never having an NHL team, but all the minor league hockey clubs that have been here have always seemed to have been successful.
The tag on it is Logo 7, which is from Indianapolis. They made, Logo 7 was off of Post Road also, wasn't it? Yeah, Adidas is now. And so they made all the clothing for all the athletic
Major league teams, college teams.
They were all printed here in Indianapolis. The Racers were the first hockey team, and then the Checkers, and then it was the Ice.
Yep. Early 80s, I believe. I think they went for a couple years and then, for whatever reason, had stopped and then picked up for a couple more years. So I think until 87, they were in existence. So, yeah, it's just cool to have, as part of early Indy sports history.
This was from the NBA draft in '94, back at when it was the Hoosier Dome downtown. But yeah, like Daniel said, now it happens at the Barclays Center every year. So just the fact that an event like that came through town, when now I feel like anything we'd ever get again would be maybe the All-Star game, but that doesn't even happen very often. Usually it's college-related basketball stuff. So having a pro basketball event like that come through the city, especially then on top of that for the vintage nerds out there on a Logo Athletic shark tooth hat, like that makes it that much better. And weirdly enough, we got this one from a guy in Canada, which I don't know what this was doing floating around up there, but I'm glad it's back home.
I want to say, Damon Bailey was one of the final high school games that were, and it was one of the biggest games for crowds for a high school basketball game in the world. I think there were like almost 40,000 people there. I mean, I saw the Colts play there, but to me, I don't know. Again, as an Indiana kid, basketball was it, and so to see Damon Bailey play there. And then I think I also got to see Glenn Robinson play in his high school team played there as well. So yeah, a lot of cool memories from the Dome.
In '83, I saw the Police. 86 or 7, I think. No, 85, I saw Prince. And it was great. Back then, you could get a ticket and work your way all the way down to the floor. Nobody ever checked your ticket, so that was great. And then the other one is,
wait,
you got a story?
Share my experience,
oh, sorry.
Because, growing up in a small rural town in northern Indiana, I never got to go to any concerts because there weren't any. So finally, as a young college student, I went to Market Square Arena for my first concert, Earth, Wind & Fire. It was the best.
What year was
so
that?
Cool. I don't know, a long time ago, probably late 70s, yeah. So my very first concert ever, I was probably 20, 21 years old, was at Market Square Arena.
This next one was one that I'd found, and it was for the Hoosier Environmental Council, but I don't know, I like earth teas. Obviously, if you saw my personal collections episode with Daniel earlier, I mean, I have a lot of earth teas in my collection, but this one with the Indianapolis, or Indiana, I guess, connection to it made it that much cooler, because I've never seen an Indiana earth tea really before this one. And yeah, preserve it for your children. So hopefully, shirts with a message means something, because hopefully you see it and you do it. So yeah, this one is really, really cool.
Karma Records, back in the day, they're still around off of Post Road, I think, aren't they?
Over there on Post.
You could go there and get any record you want. It was wonderful. Posters, clothing, just a staple of Indianapolis.
And Karma is just synonymous with the music scene in Indianapolis, right?
Right.
I mean, as far as, getting, records back in the day.
It was family owned also, I believe. Tapes, compact disc, tickets, records, and t-shirts.
Well, and what's neat is, vintage collectors, obviously the style of the hat.
The
just in
splash,
general,
yeah.
If it didn't have anything on it, the splash and the color's cool. But the fact that also is reflected something that's significant and identified with Indianapolis, right? So we all paid many bills to IPL over the years. So not necessarily one of our favorite, companies, but I'm sure, they were good people.
This is probably I don't know, man. This is probably like damn near top 2 and not 2 of a lot of my favorite tees. So this one's insane. This actually walked in the door, gosh, probably about a year ago in the shop. Some guy found it locally here and fortunately brought it in here rather than try to sell it himself or whatever, so we could just hold on to it. But yeah, Naptown, it's all good. And then on the back, Naptown from '94, it's all good. So get in where you fit in. Ain't nothing wrong with a little bump and grind. Again, man, I know I said that last one was like top 2. This one's got to be up there too. I mean, the Black Expo is a really cool part of our city's history. Not only for cultural significance and, you know, promoting diversity and you know, togetherness and a lot of the messages on their, you know, programs and shirts and whatnot, but just like some of the most insane graphics for Indianapolis historical pieces that we get in are on these shirts. This one is, you know, no different. And it even has the back hit. Yep, Still I Rise. Got the whole, you know, poem on there. But yeah, I mean, really, really an insane shirt. So this is a Broad Ripple Village tee from '87. And now correct me, my parents can correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like they used this like duck kind of logo or sign as they had this up in Broad Ripple, didn't they? I feel like off the canal, but just really cool and to, you know, see that it has been around, you know, since 1837 to 1987 to now, you know, and it's still Broad Ripple Village and it's still where we call home and where our store is really cool.
I happen to remember all this. This was the year I graduated from high school, 1986. So I remember all these different stores you used to go to. Broad Ripple was a lot different back then. I can tell you, it's changed. It used to be vintage clothing stores, record stores.
And Broad Ripple, the village itself, which has changed, you know, more to a bar, restaurant scene. But back in the day, it was antiques, little thrift shops. And man, I spent so much time there. And even into South Broad Ripple, there were always little antique shops and stuff we'd go and check out and, you know, look for just whatever, old stuff.
We used to take the kids when they were little to the antique stores.
So it was always, as Aaron had said, you know, it was kind of that artsy side of the city that, you know, you could always migrate to search for something unique and different.
We're over here off 54th and Keystone, but I mean, just to have this, you know, kind of, again, be a snapshot of what was around at the time. And then I like how the guy who printed it, which is, where is it at? Oh, Ricky's Custom T-shirts right here. Yeah. He made his business in all caps. So if you're looking at this map of the T-shirt, you would see his stand out right there off of 50th in College. But really cool. This is one that walked in the shop in our first year that we were open. And it was a girl whose mom had gotten this back when she, you know, grew up here, and the fact that it can be passed down and we can have it, you know. But I mean, and to think that like these 5 blocks mean so much to our existence as a business and, you know, my childhood or whatever. I mean, it's a really, really meaningful and important shirt.
Happy 317 Day.
Happy 317. Go Irish.
Happy 317 Day.